Hello and welcome to a tutorial, kind of a tutorial. I know that this looks familiar to any of you who watch The Ultimate Decades. This is my spreadsheet and how I track everything. So recently someone asked me about if I had a blank spreadsheet, and I said no because I didn't, but spoiler alert, I do now. And I'm going to walk you through that spreadsheet and how you can get it and how you can use it. And then I'll need whoever's the first person to see this and want it to be the guinea pig to find out if it actually works. So you'll have to comment below this video and let me know any issues that you have. I did not do any of the formulas or anything else that went into making this. All of these words right here are complete gibberish to me. I have no idea what they mean. I did not do it. However, I have played with it enough to know when it looks the way it should look. And the first thing I will tell you is this is the blank version. And yes, it does say NA and it should say NA. It should also say error when you hover over it because you have given it no information yet. So it thinks that it's wrong because you've not given it any information. So let's start with what I've given you, which is Grace and Edmund. They're my founders. You will not just input your information over the top of theirs. When you get this spreadsheet, I want you to select rows 3 and 4, right click and say delete rows 3 and 4. I just have them here so that I can show you this and then you will delete them. These are all pull-down menus for the nationality of your Sims and their cause of death. If you are not playing with this, if you right-click at the top, you can hide this column and you never have to look at the nationalities. If you're not playing with death stuff, you can hide this column as well, and you'll notice where you hit it, right up here at the top is some arrows. If you push those, it will bring back the things that you have hidden. So that's just to get things out of the way. The date in real life over here to the side doesn't mean very much at all for what we're doing. I never touch it. It is just for the creation. This current date in game, this is what matters. And right now it is set at December of 1300 because if you start this, you need to have it on December of whatever year you're playing in. So every year when I go to a new year, like right now I'm in 1415, so I go to the new year and then I go to December. So if you were playing in 1301, you would go to December of 1301 and pick the 31st, and then you leave it there while you play that year. And then that way, any dates that you enter over here will be calculated based on December of 1301. I guess if you want to be super specific and you're playing it month by month, you could advance this along. Like you could start out, let me go back to January of 1300. You could say, okay, here's January 31st. I'm going to play the whole month of January in my game. And then I'm going to come back up here and double click and go to the very last day of February. Then I'm going to go play February in my game. But that's only if you're playing 8 hours divided by 24 hours divided by 3 months, then you're only playing 8 hours per month. So that's going to get tedious, or it would be for me. You can play however you want to play, but I go to the end of the current year I'm on, which for you guys would be 1300, and I click December and I leave it there for that year. Now, you will enter the information from these pull-down menus, but the pull-down menus only know what you've told it. So let's go to the tab down at the bottom that says categories. This is the information that you give to those pull down menus. So for last name, you're going to take Miller off unless your person's last name is Miller, and then you're going to put whatever their last name is. And every time you add a new person, you go to the next line and add their last name. So that's how you're going to do that. You can go all the way down. It never stops. You just keep going in this one thing. But the formula tells the info page over here for this last name pull down menu to only pick what is over here in this line. So don't make a new line over here for last names because it's not going to pick it. It needs to be in this line. The same thing for nationality. I just left unknown right there. You can put whatever you want to put. The same thing for life stage. However, the way the thing is set up, it automatically does that for you. So I'm going to put an example in here. You know, Edmund and Grace's first child was Solomon because I'm obsessed. And so that's how I would put it, is Solomon Miller. And then I say son of Edmund and Grace. Now, because they are all in the same color, I don't say Edmund and Grace's last name because I don't feel like I need to put that right there. So Solomon would be, I said Solomon. Y'all all know I meant Sebastian. Anyway, Solomon was one of their children. He's a male, and then I put the date born. So for this, I'm going to put that he was born in September of 1300. So now it's saying, okay, you've given me part of the information. I need some more. So I need to say he's alive. And as of December 1300, he is 0 years old and he is a baby. So this age and life stage will change on its own. I don't ever have to do anything with that. It takes the math to go, okay, in December of 1300, he is 3 months old. So that's 0 years old. If I go up here and I change this date to 1305, then it's going to say he's 5 years old and he's a child. So every time you change this date up here, everybody in your whole thing gets a year older when you go and change that date. I'm going to put it back on December of 1300. Then I can do his nationality, which right now, nationality, yeah, that's right. So all I have is unknown. And then cause of death. I have nothing written here yet. You get to put that in your categories everywhere you want it. Then we have multiple births. I only had twin, triplet, and quadruplet. Also, if you don't care about that and you don't want to know about multiples or any of that stuff, then don't track it. You can get rid of that. And then I have the date that they have married and then a section for notes over here. Now, as far as the color coordination goes, that also is up to you and however you want to do it. I'm going to erase Sebastian's stuff, but this is another thing for you to know. All of these say NA. That's what you want the thing to say. If you start, see, these are blank. So if you start trying to type on a blank one down here, it is not going to have the formula. See, when I double click, I do not get this cute, wonderful formula right here. I get nothing. So anytime you have a blank one and you're like, okay, I need to have more, I highlight all of this from the date born all the way over, and it gives you a little blue dot right here. You click and drag as many as you want, and it copies every one of them with your formula. There's the formula. So that's what I'm going to do up here to the one that I made for Sebastian, the little test one that I did. I'm highlighting them all. I'm hovering over the blue dot and raising it up one. Now, of course, it doesn't match my colors, and we'll talk about the colors right now. I just fixed it. So the only thing that we do for colors is up here at the top where you fill in the space. And when you start out, you can tell that we're in the we're in the third row from the top or fourth row from the top, and we just start all the way over on the left side. And for every family, I move over one space. So still in that same fourth row, but we're going to go through every one of them. And when we get to the end, which is right here, then we go back, and now we're doing the fifth row, the first one. And I go all the way through those and back. So I have given you these first, the fourth row and the fifth row. I've given you those colors already. I didn't want to go ahead and fill up your whole page, and then you'd be like, well, I don't want to use those colors. And then you have to erase them and all kinds of stuff. So you can do however you want to do it. Now, the main way that I go and add family members is because, generally speaking, in the Ultimate Decades, I'm going to hit insert one row below. So I click on the one I want, the color that I want to use, which is this one right here, and I just inserted one below. Now, you'll notice there's nothing here. There's no formula. So again, I have to take my little thing and make sure I drag it over and bring it down. Now, here's one thing that I encourage you not to do. Do not get your sections too large. One of the things that I've also done, because then it just makes it more cumbersome when you're like, well, they're not having children anymore, but they have like 5 spots available. So one of the things that I've done, what I currently do right now, because of the way I do births, is I always have the person who married into the family is right here, and they are the spouse of so-and-so, right at the top. I mean, I don't know why I'm describing it when I literally have it in front of me. I can show you. Let me show you down here where it's all colored. Okay, So right here, they just got married in the last episode I filmed. So he is the spouse of Noelle Smith. Well, Noelle is not here. She's up here with her family where she was born, in the Smith family. So that part doesn't matter. I always leave 2 blanks below them because my people could have twins, but more than likely they're just going to have one. And I always want to have one spot that I can copy easily. I can always insert a row below this bottom one, and I don't have to go back and change the colors and do all the rest of that stuff. Now, the way I have done this in the past is if you're doing the Ultimate Decades where you roll for your side families to see how many children they have, I was doing that. And like, let's say we had this orange family right here doing, let me get it highlighted, this orange color. And I knew that they were going to have 4 kids. I would say, okay, 1 is for the spouse, because that's where the spouse goes in the top. And then I would leave 1, 2, 3, 4 blanks, and I would take these last 2 and just delete them. Because you can always add back in rows if you need to. But I don't like having extra rows here for no reason. So as you can see, all of these people that I've already have planned to get married coming up in the future, they already have their spouse, and I've only given them all 1 line because I'm just going to go in here and add another row, and then I will do the same thing where I draw this out and I copy it down to the next row. So I don't have to worry about any of that getting in the way when I'm just looking at who's coming up next and who's getting married next, because that's where I keep all of this information. So I'm sorry if that's a lot. You can pause it and let me know if you have any questions right now, and then we can continue on. But that is the main thing, and that is the hardest one to do, is the info page. But that's where you're going to keep every person in your family. They are going to be on this info page. So the categories are very important that you keep them listed in their column where they go so that they will show up for you in the drop-down menus over here. Now, once we've looked at that, we have another section called marriage and babies. Now, I left all of this blank for you. It says boys' names, girls' names, French girls, French boys, Italian girls, Italian boys. This came straight from Morbid, and there's plenty of room for other spots for you to put names. These are just name options if you want to use them. So, like I said, I just left it there. There's plenty of space for you. I don't use that because I'll show you what I use in a second, but that's not what I use. I have roles for the side household. I have my roles up here for marriage. I also have my side family children. So my people try for a baby when they get married, and then, or they get pregnant when they get married. If their babies die, they get pregnant again in 3 days. If their babies live, they get pregnant again in 5 days. So that's just the way I do it. That's the way I keep up with it. And I'll show you how I do that on the timeline. But that is how it goes for my side families and their children. So if you want to play that way, leave it here. If not, write your own rules, write Morbid's rules in here, whatever you want to do. Then the roles for the side households, these are my marriage roles. So if they roll a 1 to 2, they get married and have no kids. If they roll a 3 to 14, then that is how many years until they get married. And then again, they just have children until they become an adult, which at that point I decide they're too old to have children anymore. And if they roll higher than a 14, they don't get married. So that is the marriage roles for them. And then we just have a space here where you can write generation 1, how many offspring. For mine, Edmund and Grace had 19 children. And then for generation number 1, I guess technically is only 2 people. Then they had 19 people. And then their 19 children only had 19 children. So generation 2 and 3 both ended up as 19. But anyway, you can go through and do that however you want. You can color coordinate it. I also just kept that from what Morbid had. So that is the marriage and baby one. I'm going to skip over the timeline because we all know that's going to be the most complicated one. And I'm going to go to the teen roles. Now, I left this in here. I have had so much help from all of you guys in deciding all of the things that are on this page. So we have a couple of things. Let's first talk about the reasons to not marry. So I put these all on a spinner wheel, but if somebody rolls to not get married, then we roll this to see what happened. Like, why did they not get married? And so whatever it lands on, we do that. Like I say that that's the storyline for that person, and we go through that from there. Then we have spellcaster roles, and this is a new one that I have not even started in my game yet, but it will be starting in 14-15. So the spellcasters in our game, every 3 years, I will roll a d20 for all of them. The women are under more suspicion than the men, so there's more numbers for women than there are for men. And if they roll any of those numbers, they get arrested. But if they roll a 6, it means they get executed. So if they get arrested, I will move them out of the family for 1 year. And I don't know, maybe I need somebody to make me a dungeon that they can live in for the year. I don't have a prison space for them to go to yet. So I would love it if you guys have any ideas. Then we have teen roles and what those mean for the actions. So most of these are for aspirations because they need to be randomized, but there are a couple that are for traits. I know that there is the klepto trait, the evil trait, and it looks like that might be all of those traits. All of the traits that are in here, everything else is an aspiration. So if they want to be a master actor or a world famous celebrity, they run away with a traveling troupe. Now, I still can roll to see if they get married because nothing says that they run away and they don't get married. So I need to make sure that I'm still rolling to see if they get married. The chief of mischief never moves out of their parents' house and doesn't get married. So maybe it means that they're neurodivergent in some kind of way, and we're just calling it chief of mischief because that is a nicer way of saying what they would have called them in the 1300s. They probably would have, I don't know, left them out in the woods for the animals. I have no idea. But anyway, we would like to keep them. They're just not going to get married, but they're going to stay in their parents' house. Then klepto and evil and public enemy all are the same thing. They will roll every 2 years to see if they're arrested. If they roll a 10, they get arrested and they leave for 1 year. If they get arrested 3 times, they get executed. Somebody just asked me to add that because she was like, they're not going to continue to let them get arrested. I was like, you're right. That makes sense. Then we have the villainous Valentine and the serial romantic. Every 2 years, they have to sleep with a married person, not the same one. So it has to be a different married person every time. And if they are female, we have to try for a baby. Either way, we have to try for a baby. But if they're female, we then have to keep the babies, and we won't know if they are the spouse of the serial romantic or this other person. I guess we'll find out, but we won't know at the beginning. Then if they get any of the vampire aspirations, they're going to move to Romania. And then they'll just live there in Romania unless they roll a 5 or a 12. And then we assume they actually found a vampire and are never heard from again. So that we're not going to actually play with vampires right now. That'll probably come in later. Maybe I'll make that in the 16 or 1700s. We'll add vampires in. But for right now, we're not going to play with vampires. We're just going to have that there. They'll move to Romania. We already have a family in Romania who went looking for information on their parents. So we've already established that Forgotten Hollow is Romania. Okay, then fabulously wealthy, they marry an elder. So they're not in it to have children. They are only in it to have money. So they will try to find an elder who has money, and that is the person they will marry. If they get archaeology scholar or jungle explorer, they will leave to study history. They're not going to have a place in the world. Maybe they will. Maybe I'll send them to like a corner of Strangerville or something. Is that what it's called? Strangerville. And we'll see what happens. But so far, nobody's gotten that one yet, so I don't know. For spellcraft and the potions, they're going to move to Ireland. It's the same as with the vampires. I actually didn't even change it right here. I copied it. But they're going to do, I'm going to say witch or warlock. We're going to assume those are evil people. But they're going to go there. They make it fine, and they live in Ireland unless they roll a 5 or 12. And then they actually find a witch or warlock and are never heard from again. So we do have spellcasters in our family. So I just don't think I want to go through and deal with making someone a spellcaster if they're not already. So I don't know if I'll do that. I may just cheat and give them the spellcaster if they make it to Ireland and everything works out. We'll just have to see. Again, nobody's rolled that yet either. Okay, for beach life, they are moving to Spain and they make it unless they roll a 7 or 17, in which case they are lost at sea. Mount Komorebi is the same thing. They go to Japan unless they roll a 1 or 9, and then they're lost at sea. Strangerville means nothing right now. If they roll Strangerville, they just get Strangerville as their aspiration. Eventually, they will travel to Area 51, which will be Strangerville, and they will explore around there. Any Star Wars aspirations, again, they join an exploring troop, but then again, I have to roll to see if they get married in their troop. Wellness means they join a monastery or nunnery, and of course that means they do not get married. And then any werewolf aspiration, they roll a d20 and they are mauled in the forest and die. If they roll a 1, they live. So what I was thinking about doing for the any werewolf is the same thing that I did for the vampires and the spellcasters, is that they move to Moonwood Mill, where the werewolf place is. We just need a country name for that, so I'm open to ideas. And it's the same kind of situation. They just live there, and they make it there fine unless they roll something, and then they find a werewolf and get mauled in the forest and die. So I'm open to whatever you guys think about that, but I think that the werewolf one is kind of, it just means instant death, and none of the rest of them mean instant death. So I don't know. I think that one's a little harsh that I made, but I just made it up, so I can also unmake it up. So those are the teen rolls. You can ignore them. You can use them in your game or not. Somebody said, that's adding a lot of chaos, and I feel like it's making your job harder. And it is making my job harder if I don't pay really close attention over here in my timeline. So for your timeline, this is what it's going to look like at the very beginning. Sunday, January, February, March, the year 1300. If you're not starting on a Sunday, then change that day, whatever. I didn't want to put a bunch of days down here for you because I didn't want you to get overwhelmed, but I am going to show you a hint, I guess. So if you do Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, like the days of the week, and you put them in here like this from Sunday to Saturday, you can highlight this whole group like I just did, and you can drag again with this cute little corner, and as far down as you go, it's going to continue to repeat that pattern Sunday through Saturday over and over and over. So if you're looking for a way to quickly get you like all of those without having to copy and paste, just click and drag. For January, February, March, the same thing will happen. You'll do April, May, June, and then you will highlight them all and you will drag again and it'll do the same thing. It'll just repeat your pattern over and over. Now, it does not do that with the days of the year, because if you do 1300 and 1300, because you're going to have 4 days of 1300. So if you do that and then I'm on the wrong thing. And then you drag it, it's just going to keep repeating 1300 over and over. And if you do 1300 and then you do 1301 and you do those together, it's going to keep counting for you, which works out nicely, except that you need 4 of those. So you need 1300 4 times and 1301 4 times. So I haven't figured out how to do that. If any of you know how to make that faster than just literally typing it 4 times or typing it once, you of course can copy and paste in all of them. I mean, that's always a thing like that. And you have 4 and 4. But anyway, if anybody knows a faster way, I would love to hear about it. Okay, then you have your notes section. I added the to die section. You don't need to have it again. It's as easy as, if you don't want to get rid of it because you're worried that you might need it later, you can always hide it. Just like I said before, you hide the columns that you don't want to have. And then when you're ready to open them back up, you just hit the little arrow at the top. If you notice, I did, column number 1 is frozen, what it's called. I said freeze up to row 1 because row 1 is frozen, because when you move down this page, like we're on line 80 right here, but we still have line 1 at the top because I want to be able to see those always. I don't want them to go away. That's how you do it. If you have a couple that you want to save, like you can drag as many as you want. You right click and go down to more actions and say freeze row. You have to unfreeze row 1 first, but then you can freeze all the way to right there. So anyway, that's just a spreadsheet thing in general that you can use. And that's it. This page is completely blank except for these things. So here is the main thing that I think you need to remember each time when you're playing this game, because this is the thing that always gets me in trouble when I'm playing. Finish one whole person's thing before you move on to the next thing. So when a baby is born, you're going to go over to the info page. You're going to enter the baby's birth stuff over here. You're going to go to the timeline, which I know it says new timeline. I'm just going to take that off so that it just says timeline. You're going to enter the baby right here. And let's say the baby was born. I have no idea why I named him Josiah, but he was born. And he's going to become a toddler in 8 days because he lived through his birth. So you need to immediately copy, and he's going to have his family color. So let's say that his color is this color of Edmund and Grace. You can either remember that it's the fourth one on the end, or what I do is I just copy a blank thing that has that on it, and I bring it over here and just put it somewhere. And then that way I can click on Josiah and I can hold control and click over there, and it will tell me what color I used. And then you can always just go up here and reset and get rid of that color. So anyway, then you're going to copy Josiah, and he's going to be an infant for 2 years if you're in my world. And so I go down 8 days because that's 2 years. And I paste him right here. So then I know when I get to this day, Josiah is rolling to become a toddler. And then when I roll for Josiah to become a toddler, if he dies, I immediately put how many years he's going to live. Let's say he's going to only live for 2 years. So I copy, and over here in the to die thing, I go again down 2 years, and I put Josiah right there so that I know on this day, Josiah is going to die. Now, if Josiah is a magic user, I will put over here in the notes, and I will put spell Josiah. And then I'll know that on this day, I need to roll for Josiah as a spellcaster to see if he's gotten arrested. So that is what I do in my notes. And this is what I do over here in this area. Now, if Josiah lives, I don't put anything beside him. I copy it again, and he's going to be a toddler for 16 days. That's what this means at the top. 16 days, that's 4 years. So I would count down 16 days and put him over here. But don't go on to the next person that you're rolling for until you have completely finished the one you're working on, because that has been my biggest issue. Is I will have somebody give birth while I'm at somebody else's house to do an age up, and so I'm like, oh, I need to do this birthday, and so I've rolled for the baby to be born, but I forgot to enter their information over here with their family, and then I didn't put their birthday correctly over here. And so in 2 years, when they're supposed to be aging up, I still have them as infants because I've forgotten that they're supposed to be a toddler. So that is my one bit of advice on the timeline. Go through one full person's thing before you move on to the next thing on your list, the next birthday, the next birth, the next death, whatever it is. And when somebody dies, go over here, put in their cause of death, put in the day they died. So when you're dealing with this menu, if you say alive, you don't do anything with the date of death. But if you say deceased, you have to put a date out here, and then it will calculate for you how old they were and what age they were, and then you can say how they died or whatever you're going to do, however you're going to track it. The rest of these are just names. These are the suggested names that all of you have given me. I have gone through and put them all in. Now, these English names all the way down the side, they're not all English names. They're names from the very beginning that people have given me without specifically stating what country/nationality these came from. And then there are even more that I have right here that I have not gone through and split into male and female. So feel free to do that, not do that. Some of them are written on there, whether they're male or female. If you guys told me, some of them just know that Claire is almost exclusively used as a female name. So it's up to y'all. But those are some of the names. These are most of the names that I've used in my game. And then these are just extra ones over here. All of these names are in here. I did start color coordinating them based on the countries they were in, but I got way more countries than I had colors. So all across the top up here, you have all of these countries with all of their names that people have given us. So everything that I have here is from you guys. And then over here, I have a column for the babies who lived, because if they lived, I want to save their names and use them again at the end after I've gone through a bunch of other names. I don't want to always pick the same Agnes right here. Like if Agnes lives, I don't want the next A name to be Agnes. But if Agnes dies, I don't mind it as much. So because it doesn't go in we don't roll it a lot if they don't live. So that is my own personal thing, and you guys can do whatever you want, but I have left them here for you because I thought, why not? Like, then you don't have to go gather your own stuff. These next 2 tabs that I'm giving you are directly from other people. This came from someone on Morbid's Discord. She shared this. These are, she calls them medieval names that she found. And there are so many. Like you can see as this goes down, we're already in the 8,000s for 9,000. Yeah, there's over 10,000 listed on this one line right here, which I don't even know what that is. Let me see what D is about. English. Okay. English last names. These are surnames. So it tells you boys, there's 236, girls, there's 1,656, and then surnames, there are 13,360. So you can randomize, and that's how you can get somebody's name. You can do it however you want. But first of all, they do this to see what country. So you do a 1 through 45 for Europe, it looks like. And then once you get the thing, you go across and do the other part. I don't know. It is very confusing, and I have gotten enough names given to me by you guys that I have not even looked at this. But I did want to go ahead and include it. There's also one that is modern names that I also got from the same person. So that is in here as well. We've got the same thing, English and French. There is a spot for Americans, but there's nobody in here yet. The last 2 tabs are straight from Morbid. This is war events, or wars or in events. I've never used this. I'm leaving it in here because it was on Morbid sheet, and you guys are free to do it any way you want. You can change it all around. You can do whatever you want to do, but I left it in here for that purpose. I never use it. Then same thing with farming. I do use the farming to see what we're going to be having, and what kind of crops I can plant and all of that stuff. But that's all I use it for. But I'm leaving it in here for y'all so that y'all can have a copy of it. Now, my throat is literally sore from how long I have talked. So I'm going to stop. And you guys can tell me what questions you have, what things you still need to know. If you missed anything, go back and watch that part. If I missed anything, let me know. If you know more about spreadsheets than I do, which wouldn't take much, and you can explain some things better than me, please feel free to add those down in the comments, because I know people will come and read the comments when they get ready to start their own and want to use this spreadsheet. I just want to say a big thank you to Silvana. She is the one who did all the formulas and created this new spreadsheet, and I have loved it so much. There's actually even more things that you can do with this information. We can make different charts and graphs and things, but that is way beyond my expertise, and I am not able to show you how to do any of that. Oh, the one last thing. Morbid's rules. Right up here at the top, it says Decade Challenge rules here. And when you click on it, it takes you straight to Morbid's currently being done Google Doc. So as she adds things and changes things, it is changed real time in this one. So this is the one that I use. I scroll down here to whatever decade. I've already read all of this multiple times. So I scroll down here to whatever century I'm doing, which right now is the 1400s. So I click that, and that's where I go, into the Middle Ages for the 1400s. So these are her breakdowns of the decades so far, what she has done. And so then I click on that, and it takes me to the one I'm currently using. And then this gives me some ideas, some more pregnancy stats, what she does for her death rolls and her side households, which I've made all of those my own. So please feel free to switch those up as much as you want to. And I do use her events right here. And so that is where I am and how I use all of that from my spreadsheet. The link is right there. The other link in the timeline, if you take your bar and you scoot over next to Elder, we have a roller. And this is just the plain old Google roller that I use for all the rolls. So there is a link to that up here and a link to Morbid's thing on the info page. And that's it. I'm really going to stop talking this time. Let me know what I missed and what you still want to know. And enjoy the spreadsheet. The link is down below for you to get it. You will need to click on File, Make a Copy, because I'm not giving you permission to edit this thing. So once you make a copy, you get to name it whatever you want to name it, and it will show up in your Google Docs. That's it. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.